Hey everybody, welcome to comics class. My name is Brandon Pallas and I'm here to teach you everything I know about comics. And today we are finishing up the figure drawing series that we've all been on since the beginning with the feet. Um, so hopefully we can learn this stuff. The feet are difficult. They're right up there with the hands and the head. Maybe even harder, in my opinion, than the hands, because the shapes involved, the forms involved are very complex. The hands kind of break down to simple blocks and cylinders for the most part. The feet have some weird arches and stuff that's just not easy to draw. But hopefully I can break it down for you guys and you can understand it well. So yeah, we'll get into that in just a minute. And for now, let's go ahead and start with some warm-ups. So you guys know the drill by now. Let's just do some nice C curves. Let me go over to my Discord so I can see what people are doing. Um, Alrighty, cool. Just some C curves. Do them all the different ways. Left, right, up, down. I'm going to do, let's see. I find that I usually go down when they're, I don't know what you'd call that. If it's a parentheses, it's like an open parenthesis. Uh, and I usually go up when I do it the other way. So I'm going to try to vary that up. Do some horizontal ones, which are also harder for me. Play with the length and the sort of tightness of that that curve. Sometimes you can try to make them uniform, make them. I'm pretty bad at that, but that's a good skill. Make them all look like the last one. All right, that'll do. Let's do some S curves. And the same deal. Vary up the direction, vary up the angle. Oh wow, Ren, that's a nice looking little swan there, or whatever that is. All right, I'm kind of just getting random with these. One thing that's kind of fun is once you fill up the space with a bunch of junk to start kind of shooting these through those gaps. All right. So anyway, that's enough S curves. Let's go on to a little bit more of a complex shape. Let's do an S curve and then come back with a C curve. And we can vary vary up those curves. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but just get used to this feeling of like throwing out an S curve and then cutting back with the C curve. And do those both ways. Some of these are less curves and more of like a zigzag, but that's all right. We're going to see in a little bit why this is important. It's kind of like a little, like a bird, like a duck maybe. You could probably make a lot of animals with this with just a little bit of changing up the proportions and the shapes. Yeah, that's like a bird head. All right. So that ought to do for that. Now let's move on to a little form drawing exercise. What I want to do is I want to create a shape that has kind of a peak on the top, and then I want to separate it like this. So now we've kind of got like this side and this side. This is a little bit of an experiment here. I don't know how well this is going to work, but now what I want to do is start using those lines to kind of define that curve, that form. So just yeah, think of it as almost like a blob with a one side kind of cut out of it. You guys are doing well with this. You can try to put a little more detail maybe to that angle or whatever. All right. That's looking pretty good. I think you guys that are drawing here at least are going to do pretty well on what we got coming up. So let me see. Let me see. Yeah, that should be good for our warm-ups. So let's go ahead and get into drawing feet. So let's see. One more time for the last time. I'm just going to go ahead and knock out this whole mannequin. So we're going to make a long vertical line to stand for the whole length of the figure. Halfway, we're going to put the hip line. That's the greater trochanter of the thigh. We're going to go up 2/3, put the shoulder line. In between there, we're going to put the waist right in the middle. From the shoulder line, we're going to go up 2/3 of that space. At the top is going to be the head. From here, we're going to go down halfway. We're going to make the knees fall right there. Put in just kind of a little circle for the knee. Put in the thighs. Bring the lower legs down. Here's where the heel hits. And then the foot is going to kind of come down from off of there. If the figure is standing on the ground and we're looking, from anywhere that isn't, putting our head right against the ground, even if that, we would see some influence of perspective. But normally, the floor is going to have some perspective to it. So the front of the feet, the toes and whatnot, are going to come down a little bit from where the heels land, which is why these feet extend down below that limit of the figure there. And then, of course, arms, elbows falling at the waist, wrists falling at the hips, hands falling coming about halfway down the thigh. Can put in that neck. But yeah, there's just for one last time, there's our basic mannequin. And then we'll zoom in here on the feet. So I'll put in the knee. I'll put in a shin. Let's see. Well, first, let me just kind of draw a foot in isolation here. We got the ankle. Oh, okay. Well, actually, let me go. All right. So the ankle, we've got the inside and the outside. This is the outside right here. Hopefully that makes it more understandable. Put in a little bit of detail for the leg. We got these condyles of the ankle where the ankle bones stick out. It sticks out more. It's a more prominent one on the outside, and it's lower down. On the inside, it's much less prominent, and it's higher up. Meantime, I'll also do a side view here. So this is going to be the inside of the foot, like if this foot was kind of turned out this way. So we got the heel, which projects out backward, and that's just kind of like a big block. It's almost like a kind of a blocky ball that just sits heavy on the ground there. And then we've got the arch of the foot, which comes down like this to a last week we did the hands, and I talked about that kind of soft V like this. We got the palm, fingers come from there. We got this kind of soft B shape, right? The feet kind of have this as well. So there's a hand. If it's a foot, this area here, the heel of the hand, that's going to be the heel of the foot. And then this area here, the base of the thumb, that's going to kind of come out here, and that's going to be the big ball of the foot. The big toe is analogous to the thumb. And then we're going to have this bit here, this little pad below the fingers, that is over here. So you have these two balls on the foot, kind of, and the heel. And then as far as where the fingers would all go, that's going to be all the toes right there. So that's kind of the basic plan of the foot. So here we've got the ball of the foot, which is analogous to the base of the thumb. We're going to have the big toe. Of course, all the other toes going to be on the back there. Let's see. Okay, I'll draw it from this angle because this is the hard part. The arch of the foot is the thing that's really hard about the foot. So we can think of it kind of coming. Well, first of all, let me just do like a diagram almost. Think of the ankle like this, as like, here's the shin, and then the ankle is kind of this socket that the rest of the foot kind of sits inside of. And we've got the big, heavy ankle bone, or heel bone that just sticks out back here. There's a little bit more detail to how the bones work, but it doesn't really matter. It's kind of just a big, flat, kind of knobby, boxy chunk of bone that comes back here. And then the arch of the foot is all these bones that kind of project out like this, but we're going to deal with it as one shape. And that shape is going to be one that is kind of like this. Just like we did in the warm-ups. It's going to have a peak right here, like kind of where it attaches to the ankle, and like toward the inside. It's going to drop off kind of sharply on the inside, and then on the outside it's going to taper down more gradually. So drawn from the front, it'll be kind of like this. And it's going to be wide at the bottom, and then it's going to kind of drop off more sharply like that. The heel is back there. We may or may not see it depending on the angle of the foot. So that's basically the arch of the foot. I'll go do a couple more little demos. Heel. You can kind of treat the sole of the foot as like a flat surface to a great extent. We got these balls here. On the inside, it's going to kind of curve like this. Let's see, I'll draw one from the outside. It's going to kind of curve down like this. And up at the top, it's going to be steeper. And as it comes down, they're going to kind of flatten out. So that's the arch of the foot. Now we got to put the toes on. So I like to think of the toes. If the arch of the foot is kind of like this, the toes I like to think of as like almost a disc that kind of extends around the outside. So let's go ahead and put the toes on here. I'll redraw this a little because I let that come a little too much to the side. So if I were to kind of wrap this either like a disc or like you can think of it as maybe kind of like a bumper that wraps around the front. But the big toe is going to project forward a lot. It's going to be, and so this is why we were doing this S curve, C curve, because this is basically the pattern that I use to draw the toes. It's less of an S curve actually. It's more of like two C curves, but it's good to kind of get used to just making that one line. And then, okay, so there's the big toe. There's going to be the ball of the foot right back here. The big toe is going to have I'm going to show you guys this in the anatomy in a minute. It's going to kind of come right off of that ridge. And then all the other toes, let me take this one and there's going to be kind of a tapering. To me, it's almost like an axe or something. The shape that this makes, where it kind of tapers back, and the little pinky toe is going to be tiny. The other toes are going to sort of stick out more, but it's going to taper back. So here it's going to taper back toward the outside, and then we can just put those 1, 2, 3, 4. Pinky toes even kind of hidden there. So that hopefully makes sense. That is pretty much how you draw the foot. So let me do like a little bit more. Just throw in a little leg here. Got that outside of the cat or ankle, inside, heel projects back. Just kind of a little sort of a boxy, sort of a cone that's cut off at the end. Arch of the foot. Remember, this is going to be steep up toward the top, and then as it gets toward the end, it's going to flatten out. We're going to have a little bit of that sort of pad on the outside. And then let me just kind of ghost in the toes here. This is where the toes are going to go. Big toe is going to come off of that ridge. Other toes are all going to follow back along this little this arc. All right. So that's way out of proportion. But yeah, okay. And I'll do one more from the inside view. I guess I should also do the back. Okay, this is the inside of the ankle. There's a little bit, sometimes I put like you'll see a little bit of a ridge there as it kind of comes down the heel. All this fleshy bit comes like underneath. I don't know if that's making sense. Put that big toe there. And then let's see. Most of this would be hidden, but we'll just see a little bit of the toes there. All right, and that is probably enough of a basic introduction. Let me take a look at what you guys are doing. It's looking pretty good. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the references. All right. Here we go. So we'll start by looking at the actual structure of the foot. This is the inside. We see that big, chunky heel. All of this area is going to be filled up with flesh. There's like muscles and tendons and like fat and everything down here. But we can see the bone. It's this big arch. And the heel is just like this kind of cylindrical projection, but like I said, it gets filled up with flesh down here. So you kind of just think of it as a big block. We'll have the Achilles tendon coming up right there. The ankle bones would be like about right there. And then, like I said, here's that inside part where it's going to be like a steep drop. Here's where that heel or the ball of the foot is. It's this like little nodule right there. And there's a lot of flesh around it. And then the toes. And then same thing, the outside, we're going to get flesh there. We're going to get a little bit of a fleshy pad under the outside of the toes. Ankle bones would be out here. This is all the stuff that's kind of underneath. We don't need to worry about all these weird little bones, but it's good to observe, as you can see over here, the way the bones kind of flare out from this sort of central point, like they fan out, and then the toes kind of actually start pointing back together again. So here's the outside of that arch. It's more of a mellow angle. It doesn't drop as sharply as the inside does. And then the toes. Let's take a look at this one, just so we can really see how all these tendons work. Because the tendons, much like we talked about last week with fingers, how, for instance, the knuckles, like your punching knuckles, if your fingers are curled like a fist, you're going to see those knuckles protruding. But if you instead open your hand wide and curl your fingers back as much as you can, you're going to see the tendon popping up. You won't see the knuckle. You'll see the tendon kind of bridging up above the hand. So the toes work the same way. You know, when your toes are curled, you'll see kind of toe knuckles. But when they're flared up, you're going to see that that tendon popping up. So just, you know, observe that, just like I showed right there, the tendons all kind of run back toward that toward the middle here. Not tightly toward like a single point like this, but just kind of broadly toward the shin. Anybody have any questions so far? If you have any questions, go ahead and speak up. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. All right, so let's go ahead and get into these drawovers. So let's see. Here we can see a little bit of the outside condyle of the ankle popping out. The inside is kind of buried. The inside one is much less prominent in general. We see a little bit of a tendon sticking up there. Let's see if we can see that. Maybe, yeah, I'm not really sure, but there's a bunch of weird little tendons. It's not my intention to cover every single detail. Okay, so right here, we can actually kind of trace this tendon from this toe all the way up here, and we can see this is actually kind of the peak of that arch shape. So this all drops off that way. This stuff all comes off much more steeply this way. Heel sticking out. And then check out this little, like, it's almost like a little, like a little wedge that the toes all kind of follow, except the big toe. The big toe is often kind of out there by itself because the big toe is analogous to the thumb, which is also out there by itself. So usually I find that I kind of draw the big toe individually, double S curve or double C curve, falling back. I'll draw the big toe individually, and then the others I'll kind of treat more as a group. You're not going to see a lot of separation between them most of the time. So, yeah, you can see, when I draw it, it's a little more stylized usually. So I'm not going to I'm going to kind of show you my process here. Let's see, the small toe, the pinky toe, you often won't get that whole shape like this. It'll maybe just be kind of curled in like this. But yeah, so there's 1 foot. Let's see. Let's do this one. Okay. Big old chunky outside ankle, low. Smaller inside ankle, high. Here's the arch. You can see it like dropping off this way. The heel is right back there. I'll bake it a little bit. We got that inside ball of the foot. This arch, more of a shallow, gentle curve. Again, like I said, starting out steep and getting more shallow as we go to the end. Big toe. And then these toes are actually kind of, I feel like kind of pulled back like this, but that's fine. Look at that. The system works. Put those toenails on. All right. Go to one on the outside. Here's that outside ankle bone. Achilles tendon back here. We can see the flesh, the skin bunching up a little bit, but the Achilles tendon is going to be like kind of popping out, which it always does when the calf is flexed to extend the foot. Heel, just a big blocky shape. Sometimes the arch kind of, there'll be like an S curve here, particularly when the foot is extended. Here's the outside pad of the toes. We got this little arch for the toes there, like this little, they're almost just like a little unit. And then the big toe kind of stands out a little separately. And I'll go ahead and on top of that, I'll just do these little, this is not entirely accurate to the way these toes are. This is just like the little shorthand I like to use, but that's what I'm teaching. I'm teaching you guys what I do. And then if you want to go in depth and study every little detail of the toes and stuff, you're certainly welcome to. Let's see. I'll trace this. You can see how so there's the arch, right? And then the toes kind of come around like this. And sometimes there's like a flatness that even kind of extends around the outside of the foot, which I feel like we're seeing here, like right around that like pad. Okay. And inside bottom of the foot, heel. The heel doesn't project very far from the ankle. As compared with the front of the foot, let's see. Yeah, I mean, on some people, it barely projects back at all. I tend to draw a heel that really juts out That's just kind of my little stylistic quirk. But yeah, the heel doesn't really project that far backward for the most part. Okay, here's that arch. And let's see. Back here, I talked about how sometimes you see this like ridge on the inside there. Um, so that is kind of I got lost. We're kind of seeing that right here. So okay, inner ankle somewhere there, heel, Achilles tendon, and then you can see this is the bones, like right here. This is the bottom of that bony part, and the ball of the foot. We got the high part of the arch there, dropping down steep. Here, just quick little toe. The rest of these are largely hidden, but yeah, I can throw them in. And honestly, like to me, it's amazing how well this little construct works for drawing toes. Uh, I don't know how useful that is to be teaching people. I think it's useful. And I know that those of you in class right now are fairly advanced, and have a strong grasp of fundamental form drawing and stuff like that. So I feel like if you have a strong grasp of that, it's good to start understanding like line structures that can stand for form. If people are less advanced and still kind of in the more beginner stages of drawing, like this sort of thing might be too much. It might even be like a little bit of a red herring that's going to lead them down the wrong path. I hope not. But I don't know. I think for a lot of you guys, this sort of thing will be useful. And even if you find that you don't care for these particular line constructions, maybe you can at least put it in your head to be looking for stuff like that that works for you. So anyway, okay. Move on to this one. Big old chunky outside ankle. We can see the Achilles tendon standing up like a little cylinder there down to the heel. It kind of spreads out. It's like a drop, like a teardrop almost. Okay. Arch of the foot. We can see how it's kind of steep here, but then it gets more shallow. And then we got that little arch or arc, whatever you call it, for those toes. I'll kind of get rid of that. So pinky toe often doesn't have that whole big thing. It just kind of goes out, down, back. All right, we'll get some sole of the foot action here. The heel is kind of an interesting shape. It's not exactly a ball. It's not exactly a box. It's a little bit of like somewhere in between all of them. It's kind of a cylinder, kind of a sphere, kind of a cube. You'll kind of have to figure out how to handle that on your own. Alrighty, so here I'm just going to kind of draw out the sole of the foot. One tip that I heard a long time ago is that the best way to draw feet, I don't know if I agree with exactly, but certainly a good way to draw feet is to just draw the sole of the foot in perspective and then kind of build the foot on top of that. That, of course, requires that you be able to draw in perspective, but if you can kind of just learn the pattern of the sole of the foot, heel, ball, pad, toes. If you can kind of learn that and just kind of project that into perspective on the ground, then you can pretty easily like build the foot on top of it. But anyway, yeah, so ball of the foot, there's going to be a little, let me find some other examples of it. We can see it right here. We can see it right there. There's often going to be a little like protrusion at the, this is essentially where the thumb would start on the hand. If this were a hand, this area right here is the same as this right there. So we're going to get a little bump there. Toes. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but you know, you see how this a little swoop there. We can build that arch up here. Got the inside ankle bone. Here we got the outside ankle bone. Now this is interesting because here I feel like this heel protrudes a fair amount. We've got like a kind of a big angle curve there. Whereas some of these feet that we've been looking at do not have much of a protruding ankle or a protruding heel. So that's just, I think, you know, personal variation among people. Just keep that in mind. Okay, we got the arch. Got some really nice, beautiful S-curves here. This is the wider, flatter part. Here it gets, you know, tall and steep. Some nice toes here too, like nice, we can really see those shapes. But again, all of the smaller toes being mostly one unit, and then the big toe kind of being off by itself. Alrighty. So here is another one, big ankle here. Look at that tendon. These toes are all kind of pulled back this way, which means these tendons are all like activating. So we see this tendon sticking up high, right in front of that ankle bone. Here we can really kind of see the shape of that arch. Just take a look at what you guys are doing. Yeah, looking good, looking good. This arch is the toughest thing. To me, this is just, you know, like I've got a pretty good handle on it these days, but even now, like trying to teach it, it feels difficult. You just have to kind of really kind of come to understand this very complex shape. That wasn't even a very good one. Okay, so here, ball of the foot, pad of the foot. I'm going to call that the pad. Again, all of these toes, just kind of one unit almost, and then the big toe is separate. And here we can see some of that. Look at that. 1, 2, boom, 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 boom. And then you can always just kind of loop back and put the toenail on top there. Alrighty. Let's see. I want to do more back views. So this is good. Okay. Big old bulging ankle bone. We got a nicely protruding Achilles tendon there. Big old. I feel like we see kind of, I'm going to take a look at the, yeah, I feel like we kind of see some bone sticking out here that comes in, but then we've got all this fleshy pad at the bottom. So the ankle bone itself is like here, but when it is on the ground, the flesh kind of squishes out and it just spreads out a little bit. Okay, the outside of that arch there. Here we've got the toes all as one unit, except for the big toe, which is its own unit. Here, let's see, is this one going to be useful? Inside ankle bone, we can kind of figure where the heel is here. This one's cool because we can kind of see some of these forms on the bottom. If you guys have any questions, feel free to speak up. All right. Here's that inside angle dropping down. Pad, ball of the foot. Toe sticking out there. Okay. Man, we're actually getting through these quicker than I thought. All right, here's a good bottom of the foot. It's not a great picture, but I didn't find that many bottoms of the feet when I was looking through my reference. So this is one where you can kind of just draw that sole of the foot in perspective. That little section with all the toes, big toe kind of separate. This inside steep angle of the arch of the foot kind of comes and it like comes down and kind of turns the corner to the sole of the foot. Alrighty, let's see. Let's go ahead and go back to this one. We see the bone here. We also see a bit of a tendon. There's a tendon that comes down the side of the leg and it kind of loops. I don't know if we can see it here anywhere. No, I don't have a lot of. Oh yeah, there we go. I think that's it. It kind of loops behind the ankle bone and comes down to like, let's see, what is it? Abductor, digiti, minimi. I think that kind of spreads the little toe out this way. But you'll see that pop up on some of these feet. Let me see if I can find any right now. There's one. We can kind of see a little bit of evidence of that tendon there running down to the outside. Okay, back here. Look at this. Look at how this we get this like angle here. Actually, that would be let's see, what is that? Is that this? I think that's curving right there. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it's kind of cool thing to observe. And then we can see because the toe is up, we don't get this, we get like the tendon popping up. And then, as almost always, these smaller toes are all kind of like positioned as a unit. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's kind of telling considering that how many pictures of the feet we have on here and how the toes are not like spread out and flared out in like any of them. That's kind of a very like specific action that people don't do very often for very many reasons. So we can treat the most of these toes as a unit for the most part. And like when I do that, like I'll just like, okay, here's the big toe maybe. That's kind of weird. Okay, big toe, and then maybe I may or may not like ghost in a like arch here or arc. But I'll just kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, and just kind of throw those in real quick. That big toe came out really bad. I don't even know where it goes. All right. Well, anyway, you guys probably get the idea. Okay, let's see. Here's another good rear view. We can actually see almost like a blocky kind of nature of this heel, and see how the Achilles tendon kind of comes down and spreads out to the heel. Get that inside ankle. Here we can sort of see that where it separates, and you see kind of the underside of the bones there. Okay, now I'm convinced that this hump we see here, which is the same, I believe, as the hump here, and also I believe the little hump there is in fact this this area here where the there's the metatarsals. I don't know if these are the tarsals or what, but yeah, I believe that's what we're looking at here. So there can be a little like break in that. So you could treat this as like a C curve if you wanted to really emphasize it, or you could treat it as like a S curve. Toes. We don't really see, I think there's a little bit of a pinky sticking out, but we don't really see the toes there. But if we wanted to, we could fake them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's see what else. All right, let's go. Here's a pretty good back view. So we got the calf, we got the Achilles tendon. We can see the ankle bones popping out on either side. Once again, outer ankle bone more prominent and lower down. Inner ankle bone less prominent and higher up. We got this. Here again, we see like the bony area and then this little bloop where the flesh spreads out because it's pressed against the floor with all of the person's weight on it. Okay, got that arch. Like the heel, obviously, like very steep, almost like a vertical wall here. And then the arch, it starts to spread out to where it's very kind of wide at the end. Just treat all those toes as one unit. Big toe doing its own thing as usual. Then we'll go over here. Okay. Higher inner ankle bone, lower outer ankle bone, Achilles tendon, kind of teardropping into that heel. Here, we don't really see the arch, but we do, see the ball of the foot and the pad, and that has kind of a shape like this, right? Like it's bulging here, but it's a little like hollow in here. There's a couple of toes sticking out. We could like fake if I were drawing this, I would fake the big toe over here just so it doesn't look like it's missing. All right, let's see. If anyone is unclear on any of these, on any of this stuff, let me know. I'm trying to decide. We've only got a few left. I may as well just finish them all off. All right, so here we've got a foot, and again, there's that break right there. This foot is really like curling down. Look at how much of a flex. I'll bet this is like a dancer or something. Because this foot is like really flexing. And look at all the flesh bunching up here and wrinkling. And I feel like, this is where we can kind of see the bone, the underside of that bone that makes up the arch. And then the heel, the heel kind of comes down. We see, we've got kind of this, the heel comes down this way, the arch comes down this way, and then in here is just all flesh, right? So here we've got all flesh here. It's just all bunching up. Achilles tendon popping out and filling up the space, but as compared with like this one, for instance, where we really see an obvious like shape here, when the toe is really extended, even though the Achilles tendon is popping up here and it's going to be like in its greatest relief, um, the flesh bunches over it, so it tends to actually obscure it somewhat. Um, so it is going to create form here. It's going to fill in a lot of this area, but we're not going to see like a clean shape like we do when the foot is not really extended like that, because we're going to get all of this bunching of the flesh. Alrighty, let's see. Go down here. Low outside ankle bone, high inside ankle bone. We can kind of see here, like, I feel like there's kind of a very clear top of the foot here because of this tendon that runs to the pinky toe. So we can see how it's kind of like this. Heel, little pad of the toe there. Here we see that big inside bulge of the toe like I showed you guys here. There we go. There's the toe pattern. Here we can see a little bit of tendon right there. This is a good example of how the pinky toe tends to just kind of tuck in and not be very much of, other than just like a little nubbin. But we've got this whole section, all of these toes all kind of working together. Over here, low outside, high inside, heel. You can kind of, on the inside, take this ball of the foot and kind of trace a line just back up to that ankle bone, and just kind of like let all of this stuff kind of fall down this way. And then let's see, the peak, as I said before, the peak of the arch of the foot is going to be kind of tracing a line straight up from that tendon of the big toe. So all of this stuff is going to kind of peak right here. Big toe, do that toe shape. And then, as usual, everything here kind of just in this little arch. Let me see. Is there anything I can give you more specifically about the toes? I'm just going to go ahead and draw in a couple of toes here from the bottom. So, like, let's say this is the ball of the foot, and this is a big toe. It's and I guess it's just like a thumb, right? Like a thumb has two sections and a thumbnail, and then there's the pad of the thumb. This is kind of the same thing. There's the ball of the foot. It's got the one little section and then the other little section. The other toes, let's see. Let's take a look at the actual bones here. Yeah, so we can see the big toe is just two bones, right? 1, 2. Whereas all of these little toes are 1, 2, 3. Just like fingers, fingers have 3 bones, thumb has 2 bones. So the big toe and the little toes are the same. But I'm not sure, they this is one where, like, I haven't looked super deeply into the anatomy of it. Let's see. I guess it's the 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. But that little last bone, that doesn't do a whole lot. Alrighty, let's go. I think we've only got a few more. So, big outside ankle, heel, Achilles tendon, heel kind of. Sometimes it looks like a triangle to me, sometimes more like a block. The heel is kind of maybe like a trapezoidal kind of shape a lot of the time. There's the pad, there's the ball of the foot on the inside. The toes, yeah. And I feel like here you can kind of really see that the way it bulges out on the side a little bit on the to the outside. Let's see. All right, this is a pretty gnarly one. Not a very good picture, but that's all right. Ball of the foot. We don't see a lot of it there, but you know, sometimes I like to put that in just for a little bit of creating form. We got the flesh of the foot, the heel, toes, all of these, one section, one group. And then these last two examples here. Okay, big outside, low. This one is almost like a lot of times it's like a diamond, like a soft diamond shape with usually like a tendon sort of going up. See a little bit of that higher inside ankle bone, heel. Okay, so the peak is right there. We're kind of not really seeing the inside from this angle, but we'll see this kind of all coming down here, spreading out wide. Big toe doing its own thing. These toes all creating just like a little orange slice shape almost. This is a good one where you can really see how that arch would continue up into here. You can see the flesh underneath. You can see the heel popping out. There's a cool tendon right there. I believe that is coming up from the big toe. We can see, you know, the flesh bunching up because the toe is up. Inside ankle. The inside ankle bone often almost disappears, depending on the position. The outside, you're pretty much always going to see because it's big and prominent. But the inside one can kind of get lost. All right, so here we've got that steep drop off. This is almost creating like a cylindrical kind of shape on this side. And then we don't really see the outside except right there. And then those toes again, creating almost a single shape. And then you can just separate it out into the little individual toes. That was a game changer for me when I learned this, when I realized like, oh, you can, it's kind of just a block of toes. You kind of, you know, ghost that in and then just put your lines in and separate them out. Made it very much easier for me. Alrighty, let's see. Inside ankle. Here we really see the tendon popping up there. Heel. A little bit of like a hollow underneath. Arch. Ball of the foot. Toe. We don't really see the other toes much, but we could bake them in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then one last one. Let's see. Outside ankle, kind of a diamond shape. We even kind of like here, there's that tendon showing You know, I showed how sometimes you get the arch on the inside. You can even kind of see the arch on the outside and sometimes see some separation from the heel. Okay, there's that peak in this arch from those where it goes from the, I don't know what you call all these bones, but all those weird bones that are kind of analogous to the wrist bones in the hand, where that goes to the metatarsals there. So sometimes it's like a long S curve, sometimes it's like a crusty little couple of C curves. And that's the sort of thing where, depending on whether you want to make a foot look like elegant or whether you want to make it look like kind of like gnarly and powerful and whatever, like those are the kinds of considerations, and then that goes for everything, the whole figure, the whole, anything, like the kind of lines you choose to represent it are going to impart a feeling to it, a vibe. Okay, so we got the arch. Flattening out as it goes down. Big toe. The big toe is almost part of the same, grouping here, but I do prefer to do it differently, to do it separately. So I'll just make that little slice there, big toe separate, and then just, execute the little pattern. And that is that for our reference. So let me go ahead and just do a couple more feet freehand. I'll make this one kind of extending out. So the heel is going to come back. We're going to bring that arch down into the ball of the foot. I'll fill this in with some flesh here. And then, let's see. This, where the big toe is going to be, you know what, let me go ahead and put in a big toe here. And then where the big toe is going to be, that's kind of where, like this, where this tendon would be, that's going to be where the peak of our arch is. So the arch would kind of come down like this. I will kind of create that little grouping for the toes. Go back here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, those weren't good. I screwed myself up somehow. All right. That's good enough. One or two more. Let's see. This one will be the inside, kind of from the bottom. So we'll get the inside ankle bone there. We're going to have that steep drop off on the inside. Inside ankle bone should be higher, actually. That steep drop off on the inside of that arch. Put a toe here, big toe, little toes. Create that grouping. And then we can just go 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. Let me see what. Okay, one more, just flat on the ground, outside of the foot. Here's that big chunky ankle bone. We're going to even see some Achilles tendon there. You see the flesh kind of bulging out. That's a nice detail. Like that's not something you're probably going to see in like cartoon drawing very much, but it's nice to know it's there. And if you're doing more serious figure drawing. You know, it's a good detail. Alrighty, so let this go to the outside pad of the foot there. There's that little tendon that kind of comes off toward the pinky toe. And let me just kind of ghost in those that area for the toes. I'll let the big toe do its own thing over there. Little pinky toe. All right. And I think that about covers it. That should give you guys a pretty good basis in feet. Again, the intention of this whole series was sort of simplified anatomy, or I guess this isn't even part of the simplified anatomy. This is head, hands, and feet, which I have elected to handle as a lot more of just like my tricks for doing these things, because honestly, like that's the way I think about it. You know, I learned the basics, and then like I kind of had to come up with a lot of tricks. Yeah. Hope that helps, guys. That's the whole body, basically, as well as I know it. And it works for me. So hopefully it can work for you guys too. And if these systems don't work for you, at least I think it can give you an idea of the ways in which you can develop systems that do work for yourself. You know, so maybe the stuff I show here doesn't exactly work, like the kinds of patterns of lines. Maybe the whole mannequin that I've been teaching doesn't work, but maybe it gives you some ideas for how to come up with some stuff that does work for you. Yeah, homework. Just give me 20 feet. Because that's not that much, you know, just the foot is not that much. So 20 feet. Yeah, that'll be that. We will come back next week and finally get started on perspective. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's time to eat our vegetables. So, all right, guys. Thank you all very much. And I will catch you next time.